First of all, thank you very much for joining this presentation. Congratulations, you are one step away from completing the first day of jDays, and I'm really glad that we are going to do this step together. So this last talk for today is about my experience and what I have learned the last 18 months working with global development teams. My name is Patroklos, Papapetrou, and too many P's, I guess. I'm from Greece. Okay, this little star over there, it's where I live, and I make all this way to come over there. So, what's my short story? Like I told you 18 months ago, I think I made the most challenging decision of my career. I decided to switch my working environment for a typical office and joined a company in the US working as a freelancer. That change was even more radical because from a hands-on developer, programmer, I decided to move to a slightly different role and I became a development manager or tech lead, that I had to spend half of my time coding and half of my time managing or helping people be productive. So although my role is development manager, I prefer call myself a facilitator because most of the time I facilitate people being productive with their problems. So that was a great decision, but it has many challenges, and one of them was that the development teams that I had to manage were literally all around the world. So I decided to do this talk and share my experience with you. Actually, I should change the title from managing to working, because it's not only about managing, but working with teams in general. Let me give you some numbers first. I love numbers. So the global workforce, and this doesn't mean only programmers or developers, actually 20% of this workforce telecommutes. I don't know the exact numbers for developers. I couldn't find these numbers. I know, however, that there are around 18 million developers all around the world, and we are in the same or even better position. More developers, around 25% telecommute. And from this 20% that work remotely, only 10% work as a full-time developer or a full-time worker remotely, which makes only 2% of the workforce. The other 18% works half of the week or at least one day per week. You can find down here my source. It has more, the infographic is mine, but the numbers, I got them from here, so you can visit this page and see more interesting numbers about that. Some more interesting facts. People are willing to sacrifice part of the salary to work remotely, which is very interesting, and I can hear them, I can understand them, because when you work from home, you have a lot less expenses. You don't have to take the train or to take the bus or to drive, okay, so you have to pay less. Also, you don't have to eat at your office, okay, at your working environment. And since you have more flexibility, you have more free time, it's many times, okay, fine to sacrifice part of your salary because you're gonna get it from spending less in transportation and other stuff. And the other interesting part is that almost 2 out of 3 employees believe that, and actually they are more productive. And this is not a belief only from the employee's side, but also from employer's side. And this is happening not only because people are staying more focused when they work at home. You know, they have less interactions. If you have prepared a nice and quiet working environment, a home office, but also since we have this Ethernet evolution, and you can create a virtual working environment and a collaboration environment with your team members. You can be more productive, more focused, and at the same time, keep the same level of interaction with your team members as you had in a working environment. So all these numbers are really cool, and let me show you also some trends that are actually changing the world of remote working. Nowadays, the typical telecommuter is a male of age of 40. Now, 20 years ago, that was kind of different. So mostly women preferred to work from home, to be with kids and stuff. But now this is changing. Okay. Now, men usually prefer to work at this age from home to spend more time with the family and be more flexible and stuff like that. Also, there are there is this idea that when you work from home, you are helping the environment because you don't pollute the environment using your car or whatever. So this is the kind of mentality of being friendly against the environment. And finally, there are many companies that are using telecommuting as part of their, let's say, emergency plan. So for instance, in places where there are lots of earthquakes, when an earthquake happens or a hurricane, everything stops. There's no electricity and there are too many problems. So let's say that you have a customer service located in this particular area of a large company. You cannot just stop servicing your customers or your customer support because there is some severe weather conditions. So in that case, companies are allowing and asking their employees to work from home in that cases to keep the business running. Okay, so this is a very typical scenario. I have read a lot of articles, especially in the US. They have a lot of problems. Now, I got some more numbers from Stack Overflow. Okay, you can see here my source, and this is only about developers. So you can see at least 29% work remotely. Okay, this is developers that replied to this Stack Overflow survey. And what is more interesting is that at least 20% believe that working from home is highly important. And if you add also this number, 29, then we've got around 50% of the developers that believe that working from home is important, and it counts when they have to make a decision about their next opportunity. So maybe this one is a good graphic that companies might consider when they want to do some new hires. Also, one more a couple of more slides about these numbers. I found that very amazing, but I asked Stack Overflow to give me the numbers only for Sweden, but they didn't. Actually, they didn't even reply to me. So I can give you these numbers for total for the globe. So usually, remote developers are paid higher than people working in the office. And if you think about it, that makes sense because companies have to pay less. They have to pay less for rents. They have to pay less for equipment. They have to pay less for some other perks, like providing some coffee or snacks or whatever. So they can split this gain and pay a little more for the employees. Also, when you work remotely, you can work in companies that are paying more than where you live. Okay, so I don't think this is the case in Sweden because Sweden, I think, has one of the biggest and higher salaries, especially for developers. But if you see the next slide, in Russia, for instance, you can see that people that are working remotely usually are working for Scandinavian companies or Northern Europe companies or US companies. They get paid more than typical developers are getting paid in Russia. And the same figures you can see for India and Brazil. In the US also people are getting paid higher, okay, because of the same reasons that we just discussed. So there are a couple of things that are trending in this area, but when it comes to work remotely, nothing seems to be so easy. So there are several problems, and happily or sadly, I had to find them in front of me, and I had to find ways to handle them. So let's get started with some of the typical problems that a remote employee has to deal with. First, and quite obvious, is that there are so many different time zones. Okay, developers work all around the world, so not only that, they are also usually allowed to work any time of the day that they want. So if you prefer to work at night, there are no specific rules to be online at that particular times. You can work during the night. And when I joined this team, my first question was, how am I supposed to work with these guys? How am I supposed to build a team? How am I supposed to communicate with them? What if I have to make some meetings in 11 p.m. my time, or even worse, 2 a.m. in my time? Okay, so I'm working with teams that are located in Seattle or San Francisco, where it's 10 hours behind me, and at the same time, teams that are located in India and Australia. So sometimes it's almost impossible to get all these guys in the same virtual team room and have these meetings. And I had to deal with the fact that, hey, in some cases, yes, I might need to have a call at 2 a.m. in the morning, okay, because that's the price I have to pay for this flexibility. That was the first one. I think I got used to it, and I have stabilized my meetings so far. The next one is the absence of face-to-face communication. I'm not saying that everything is cool in a typical environment. You might work in an environment, you sit together with the next developer, and you never talk, okay? But in a virtual environment, this is obvious, okay? I still remember the first day that I joined this new company, and I was introduced by the former development manager to this new virtual team. And I was terrified with the idea that I had to speak in front of my laptop, in front of my screen, and manage or discuss things with people that are not located in the same office with me. And not only that, let's say, through time you have to, I'm getting used to it, I have also to communicate with customer support folks, when clients report issues that they have to be fixed with a high priority. You have to communicate also with product managers, product owners. So things are getting even more complicated in that case. The next problem that I faced is about culture and ethics all around the world. Definitely we don't have any developers from this African village, but everything I knew about human relationships and the way I was handling, common conflicts between team members or common problems, actually, all of this stuff that I knew or I thought I knew, it collapsed from one day to another. Okay, and the basic reason for that is that you don't know how people react to when they hear something that you consider normal, but in their ears, in their culture, means something completely different. And I have some great examples. I was talking once with a guy from India, and I was trying to explain to him, let's say, our new process, or I can't remember, or a new cool feature that we want to implement. And he goes, keep doing this. Okay, so what do you understand? Did he agree on that or not? Well, I thought that he was disagreeing, okay? And I was trying to convince him again and again and again. And at some point he told me, hey, stop doing this. I agree with you. So this, in India, means, yes, I agree. So he was doing something completely different, and I felt so stupid when I did that. So that's a very simple example, which is quite funny when you think about it, but it explains how different are the cultures and the ethics all around the world. And there are also two more problems that if you think, if you forget, you might be in trouble. The first one is the false perception of similarity. Let me give you a couple of examples. Now, I'm from Greece, okay, and we are very close to Turkey and Albania. If you think that we have the same culture, so we are more or less the same guys, then, and you tell me, hey, you look like a Turk or you're an Albanian, I will probably get insulted because we have so many different things. And I made the same mistake. Again, I will provide an example with India, guys. India and Pakistan. I thought that they were pretty much the same, but they are, I wouldn't say enemies, but they dislike each other. I guess if I don't know, probably most of you are Swedish. If I tell you that you are from Norway, I guess you won't be happy, okay? Probably. So that's the first thing that I made as a mistake. It's the false perception of similarity. And the second one is how people perceive the idea of teamwork. And let me explain that. Now, Western civilizations, we are taught from our school years that we should be successful and we should make maybe our own career and do that and blah, blah. But all this stuff is mostly focused on the individual part, okay? On the opposite, there are countries like, again, India or China or Africa, where teamwork is highly measured against individual. So when you discuss with so different people and you explain about how we need to collaborate as a team, people perceive it differently. So in some cases, you might need to tell different things to people from different countries to explain exactly the same thing. So that's the deal with culture and ethics. And the next one is obviously about language, okay? And clearly, we are all required to speak English, and since only a few people are native English speaker, things are getting more fragile. You know, words have different meanings, and in some cases, you need to be very clear. So let's say, for instance, I want to explain the requirements to an architect, and I can't just explain that in a few words. I need to give the details, okay? So not a general idea. You don't write a feature by a general idea. You need to give the details. So that's another, roadblock. What I found really cool is when I have a discussion, even when someone is explaining something to me, or when I try to explain something to someone else, I always ask to repeat the same thing again. So I repeat with my own words what I understood, and on the other side, I ask my colleagues to repeat what they have described. So we double check that we are on the same page, that we understood the same things. So, plenty of problems so far, and things are getting even worse when you try to build a team from scratch. Actually, most of these problems are the same when you have to build a team in a typical environment. Okay, you need to identify the budget, the scope, the purpose of the team. And what about staffing? Okay, what about interviews? How are you going to do these interviews? Happily, there are two ways. Either you create your own tests, or you go to all these platforms that provide online tests, but you need to be very careful because these platforms provide some generic tests that usually make you lose very good candidates because they failed on a particular automated, let's say, grader, and you are missing very good candidates. And the last thing that I would like to underline is that when you create a new team, the first thing that you should care is to build trust among the team members. And by trust, I mean that people, when join a virtual team, they don't see anyone. They might have concerns that there is a monkey company or a fake company, or people don't care about each other. So the first thing that I try to do, even from the interview, let's say, session, is to create trust between me and the developer or whoever is on the other side of the meeting. So usually when someone joins a team, what I ask them is to introduce themselves, okay, in the first meeting, and maybe go one step beyond and tell something about themselves that hasn't to do with this particular job, like a hobby or whatever. So I'm trying to make them feel like they are joining a real team, but the only difference is that we don't have a sharing working environment. And obviously, this trust building starts from the first day and doesn't stop throughout the project. I'm trying to inspire people, to motivate them, even if it's required to be self-motivated, but I'm trying to make them feel like they're working in a particular environment. So these are the problems that I had to work mostly and solve. Now, what I did, let me give you some hints. Initially, this slide was labeled effective management, but like I told you, I don't like the term management. I don't feel that I'm managing people. I feel that I'm facilitating people or leading them, so I changed that to leadership, okay? These are the 7 axes that, more or less, I had to deal with. Communication, collaboration, automation, expectations, a good process, a clear process, and obviously to make people take initiatives and leader themselves. And again, trust within the team. Let me give you some hints. Virtual communication. Obviously, we have meetings, okay? And I'm trying to keep, let's say, a pace of meetings like what Scrum or any other process suggests. So we have usually a daily meeting, which is something like a daily stand-up or a Scrum. Nobody, of course, is standing up. A typical weekly meeting for planning purposes. A typical weekly meeting to do demos to our product owners or stakeholders. And I usually set up a monthly meeting where I usually present and discuss the goals for the next month. The key point is to go very well prepared in this meeting and make sure that the agenda is clear and shared to the attendees before the call. So what you want in this meeting is to be as much as productive, okay? You can't afford losing that time with so many attendees sitting and waiting for you to explain them, losing hours on this meeting. So I'm trying to keep these meetings as short as possible. And a good thing is when you join a company that is relying on remote working, I think it's a prerequisite to have a very good bandwidth. And this will allow you to obviously attend meetings without any problems and enable webcams. Okay? Using a web camera in a meeting makes it more, I would say, live, and it's one of the key points to build trust, because you see the people, that there is not just a voice. Okay, there is a human behind this voice that actually works in the same team. And obviously we have plenty of tools, okay, that we can use. If we go to that meeting prepared, we know the tools that we're using, and we have good bandwidth. We have good chances to avoid all these problems during a call, that someone is not cannot be heard very well. There is background noise, dogs barking, or someone is doing some other stuff in the house, so you cannot listen to him, and all this funny stuff. Actually, there is a video. This one, if you want, you can see it. I will share the slides. I'm very tempted to click and see it right now, but I don't have an audio connection. I forgot to plug the wire. So it's a very funny video and shows all the little funny things that you might come across in a virtual meeting, but they show it as in a real meeting. So someone is talking to a wall when he's disconnected, and people are talking at the same time, and it's quite fun. I mean, it's 3 minutes video, and you can have a look. So meetings are cool, okay, and they are great to keep the team members synced and focused on their goals. However, you cannot just replace a working environment by doing even a daily check-in, 15 or 10 minutes every day, and a couple of weekly meetings. Okay, this is not about collaboration. So collaboration is to create some virtual, let's say, model that people can find all the information they want without asking here and there. So we need tools, okay? And here's the list of the tools that I found very convenient and helped me work together with a team. You need obvious a ticketing system, a wiki, code review stuff, document sharing, maybe absence management, which is slightly more demanding in a telecommuting environment, okay? And I think that somewhere in the same should be something that will integrate all this stuff. Well, I'm a fan, actually I'm addicted to Slack, and I found all these integrations really cool. So what I do every time in the morning, or whatever I join, I'm getting online, I look at some channels and I see what is going on, who created pull requests, if we have builds that are failing, if someone is going to be out of the office, let's say, next week. So everything is there. And this creates collaboration because you can find all the information. You can create transparency. Okay, everyone has access to all the information, so you don't have to guess things or make decisions without knowing all the information. And this actually increases productivity and, of course, collaboration. Now, you can replace any of these icons with your own tool, even Slack. But I think you got the idea about what I mean here. And then it's automation. If automation is one time important in a typical environment, it's 10x important in a virtual environment, okay? So at least it's out of the question if you don't have at least continuous integration or continuous deployment, even continuous delivery, of course, automated tests of several different layers. I think we discussed that earlier, from unit tests, integration tests, UI tests, all this stuff, different platforms, different operating systems. A pretty intelligent way of getting notifications, okay? This one is quite important. Usually, the tools that we are using, we don't pay much attention to notifications, so we are getting bombarded with a lot of emails that, okay, we pay attention to them, let's say, the first couple of days, and then we create a rule to go them to the spam folder, so it creates the opposite effect. And again, I think that if we combine them correctly in Slack, you can get all the different notifications that you want, and you can get the productivity that it's important again. So automation it's a critical thing. The first thing that I did when I join a team, I set up all the infrastructure, okay, that will provide automation to all the activities. And the next one is about setting goals. Okay, probably you are aware about this SMART acronym. Let me briefly explain what I understand for this acronym. Goals should be specific. They have to be clear. Okay, if people don't understand their goals, how they're supposed to reach them. Okay, so I'm fine to explain again and again, and spend as time as needed to explain the goals to the rest of the team. They should be measurable. Ideally, they should have a number, okay? Every goal should have a number. So for instance, we need to implement, let's say, these five features by end of the month, or we need to do 30 story points this week as a team. Achievable and realistic. Actually, this is a combination. I'm very tempted to change the word achievable to aggressive, but still realistic. You know, people, when they get goals that are very easy, they just hit them, but we are not pushing ourselves to do more. So when we are setting aggressive goals, it's much more possible that people will push themselves and be more productive. But at the same time, the goals should be realistic. When you set goals that nobody can reach, this will lead to the opposite result. People will be demotivated, and nobody will try to hit their aggressive goals. So this is a very cool combination, and there is a very thin line between what is realistic and aggressive versus achievable. And obviously, I already gave you an example. They should be time framed. In this particular week, this month, this quarter, or whatever it's the product release cycle or the iteration cycle, whatever it is. So if we try to create simple phrases with these goals, I think people will be focused, and they know what they have to do every day, every week inside the team. Okay. The next one might seem quite weird. I don't know if you have ever heard this motto that the first and the best victory is to conquer self. Means that if you can make decisions by your own, be self-motivated, be disciplined, then you can be more productive within the team. So what I'm trying to do is to, of course, be a facilitator and help people remove any blockers, but when I'm not available, I don't want to be a bottleneck and people cannot move with their goals. So I'm trying to give them ideas and give them the flexibility and the freedom to make decisions by themselves, okay, and take initiatives and move further. Teams that have people like this tend to be more productive and have better collaboration, okay? And they're not expecting everything from their tech lead, their manager, or whoever is their role. One more thing, solid process. It doesn't matter if you are doing Agile in any of the Agile forms, okay? It doesn't matter if you're following Waterfall or Scrum or whatever. If you have a very clear process, everyone knows what they have to do with which tool, when they have to create pull requests or do code reviews or whatever is the process, or when they have to write tests, everything, then people are not running from here and there, and they are focused, okay? And this also creates more trust between the team because everyone is following, again, the same rules, okay? They are objective, so nobody can argue against them, and they are followed by everyone, and they know the income and the outcome of every of these rules. So document the process. Document by providing some simple rules, simple steps, and ask people to follow it. Otherwise, if there's no discipline, there's going to be no trust, and probably the team will become in jeopardy. Again, I'm showing the same slide. For me, trust is one of the most important things. We discussed how you can build trust again and again. And one more thing that we can make things even better is to measure performance, but not in a way that people are feeling that they are micromanaged. Okay, I don't like micromanaging, and it's very easy if you work in a remote environment to start micromanage people because you can't see what they are doing. You can have a direct access, so you are trying to control every little detail, and I think this can create the opposite result. However, since people can easily lose focus, it's a good idea to have some performance or productivity evaluation. So what I'm trying to do is to get a baseline where we are today, and again provide a number. What's the way to measure this performance? Again, it's clear and objective. Everyone knows what is the expected performance or the expected productivity or whatever we expect from them to do. within a period of time, week, month, quarter, whatever. And of course, it is easy to measure. By easy to measure, I mean it should be fetched automatically. If someone has to enter manually all these numbers every week or every day, doesn't make any sense. So things have to be easy to measure and keep historical data. Historical data can help teams, predict the future, okay? And in this environment, it's even more important to be able to predict the future. So I try to set performance evaluation metrics, and I also try to have two levels of performance, let's say, measurements, one for every individual and one for the team. I prefer focusing most on the team performance, okay, because even if we have a brilliant developers, super duper hero that can write code, as 10 developers, if the team doesn't deliver the expected features to the product, then at the end, everyone loses. Okay, so it's a team sport. So although I have performance indicators for everyone, I mostly value the team evaluation. And again, these numbers are reported weekly, monthly, quarterly, or whatever. And what I'm trying to do is when I get this performance evaluation automatically, I try to share my feedback, first of all, to the individual, but I'm trying to be constructive, okay? And what I'm trying to do is I set up a video conference, a video call, again, using my web camera, so I can see him and explain what is expected from him and what he needs to, or she needs to improve. On the other side, when things go very well, it's a very good opportunity to share this, to give kudos publicly in a meeting or in the Slack chat room, or sending an email to our product owners and say, hey, these guys are awesome. They managed to ship this version 2 days earlier with the same level of quality, this automated test, and blah, 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 all this stuff. So it's not enough only to measure performance and value people, but you should also, at least this is what I do, share the constructive feedback when something goes wrong, and publicly praise people that they did a good job or they did something more than expected. And again, this will increase trust, because when you share your feedback, people understand what they have to do and trust you, because you are giving a feedback that can be used to be better developers, because we want people to become better developers week by week. And clearly, when someone gets a public, thank you message is always something that gets people motivated and give more to the team, and again, to get more trust against me and the whole team. So I would like to close the presentation again with slides. If I want you to keep only one idea, all of the stuff is good. Numbers, automation, performance metrics, whatever. But if people don't trust each other, if people are not motivated, if they are not feeling like this virtual environment is exactly the same as a typical collocated environment, then probably something is missing. So again, if you want to keep something, keep a trust. It's the most important thing when you're working in a virtual environment. So that was my presentation. Thank you very much for your time. If you have any questions, I'm happy to take them. We have 5 minutes. I know it's too late. If you don't, thank you very much for having me here and being a very nice audience. Thanks a lot for your time. Any questions you might have? Sure.
Do you used to meet regularly in real life, the team, or what's your experience?
Good question. Well, in this particular company I work, when in the first steps, that was 3 years ago before I joined, I know that they were doing a year, let's say, gathering in a particular place. But now that this company has grown, okay, it's kind of difficult to have all people working together. Now we are, having for in a place for at least a weekend. Now we are thinking something like have gatherings per continent. Okay, now Europeans together or US folks together and something like that. When you have small teams, it's much easier, obviously. But now that we have, 150 developers, it's not very practical, and obviously the costs are quite large. Okay, but yeah, this idea strengthens the trust between people, and yeah, I agree with you that this is a very good idea, but not very practical in all times, in all cases.
But do you used to travel and visit them on the different locations instead, or?
If I travel?
Yes, and meet the different.
No, I don't travel. I don't travel. So I'm working only from home. Okay, I don't travel. I did it only once, but that was a special occasion. But normally we don't travel and meet people in different locations. Okay, we do have, let's say, our customer services, which are located in particular countries that have most of the customers. So, development is quite different. You can have developers all around the world. And this remote working works pretty fine with developers. However, in customer services, in some cases, you can't do that. Okay, so you have, let's say, customers in Sweden, then you have to hire people that speak at least Swedish. Okay, even if they are working, I don't know, from home. So I don't travel to answer your question because it's not needed. Okay, I don't think it's something, but probably it will help if I go to a particular customer, but I don't think it will provide much value to meet with developers all around the world. Okay? Good questions, by the way, thanks. Yes?
What are your working hours?
My working hours? Well, I'm trying to spend, let's say, 2-3 hours per day in 3 different time zones. So I'm trying to be early in the morning, my time, to have to be at the same time with the guys in Asia. Then I've got meetings with the afternoon, my time, to the US folks. Okay, my managers, and then I try to be again late at the night to have meetings with West Coast. Okay, which is San Francisco or Seattle. So, and I'm trying to do that 2-3 days in a week, usually, because this is the flexibility. So I spend working hours in 3 different time zones. Okay, but this is required because of my role. Okay, if I was only a developer, there is no such restriction. I mean, you have to attend some meetings, but these meetings are, you can see there are, I don't know, 5 to 7 meetings every week, and they are very short. Okay, so my role is kind of special because I have to attend more meetings than a typical developer. Okay, and to be honest, I don't like that. Okay, I would prefer to have full flexibility, working anytime I want. Okay, or even work during the weekend. Okay, or during the night. But it's not that possible when you have to deal with many teams, cross teams, and stuff like that. Okay, but yeah, I have to deal with this. Okay, thanks once again, and enjoy the after party and the rest of the conference. Thanks a lot.